customarily periscoping, but this is an important venue to share what I think is an important message. Namely that fascism is intoxicating to a lot of people. Usually to a minority. A minority of people can get really sucked in with the human frailty, the human failing of being able to scapegoat others and believe that all problems would be solved if you can just be meaner to people who look different, meaner to migrants. If you can be more cruel to asylum seekers, then you won't get any more terroristic attacks. So some people lean that way when they've been under attack. Some people leaned that way before 9/11 as well. It's a problem when it hits about 30 to 40% of people, and that's where we're at in America. That Trump is a national security threat, and there are still enough Americans who are vocal in their support of Trump that the Republican Party won't do its constitutional duty and exercise oversight on a tyrant who is sacrificing America's national interest to the cause of his personal advancement, to help out dictators and tyrants whom he is beholden to for electoral help and financial backing. So yes, Trump has 2 towers in Istanbul that he's very proud of. Trump was aiming to get a tower in Moscow. He had signed a letter of intent to that purpose. And yes, multiple millions of dollars were invested by Vladimir Putin in military programs where Kremlin agents devoted their time and energy into escalating discord on social media channels between American groups of people. So pretending to be Black Lives Matter activists, saying, yep, we hate white people, so that white people could go, oh, right, well, we need a presidential candidate who's prepared to stand up to black people and prepared to defend America by excluding Muslims, and then hopefully in the future putting Muslims in concentration camps and murdering all of them. That will keep us safe. It's a very similar aim and intention to Hitler in World War II, when Hitler artificially promoted Jewish people as a threat to Germans so that they could then feel the emotional satisfaction of having a contained threat and problem to deal with. If the problem is just Jews and you can get rid of the Jews, then that's great. Our lives will be super and relaxed and prosperous going forwards because we have a leader who's going to prioritize us and hurt Jewish people. Now, Republicans will get offended when I compare their beloved leader to Hitler, but the parallels are extremely valid because since January of 2018, it's been evident that Trump would say anything in order to link Democrats in the minds of Republican voters with crime and facilitating crime. He ran an attack ad online showing a criminal who was an undocumented migrant and saying, look at his gleefulness, he's killed, he'll kill again, and Democrats want to allow him to go free from jail, and they want to allow more people like him to come into America and kill your family. Literally invoking the greatest of threats possible in order to associate Democrats with criminality and murder. They also put a lot of time and effort into trying to associate Democrats with killing babies, when human instincts are very protective towards vulnerable little babies. When in real terms, Democrats have been trying to protect women, real human women, from legal moves to force women to proceed with pregnancies reluctantly. So that you have involuntary birth rather than a voluntary choice to say, yes, I've accidentally conceived a child, but I want this baby and I want to make room for this baby in my life. Other people in America might be so impoverished or in an abusive domestic relationship or have any other type of personal circumstances to say to themselves, no, I cannot welcome this child into my life. I might be killed by my abusive partner. I might experience a mental breakdown if I'm forced to carry my rapist child to term. I have to prioritize this non-sentient clump of cells ahead of my own life and ability to take care of my existing children because Republicans have determined that that's how they're going to support the sanctity of life. There are many ways to support the sanctity of life without legally oppressing women so that they the suicide rate of women is likely to increase, as it has in countries such as Paraguay and El Salvador, where abortion is entirely illegal, and women who are forced to continue with a pregnancy will sometimes opt to take their own lives rather than bring a child into the world that they know they're not capable of supporting. To avoid the ill of having to neglect a child because they know they cannot support a child, they take their own lives. And that is the position of despair that Republican leaders want to force American women into. And it's all part of the Republican drive to demonize Democrat leaders and Democratic voters. So the lives of everybody in America who's a Democrat is threatened by the continuing consolidation of power in the hands of Republicans and Donald Trump, because they don't have any qualms anymore about inciting civil war against you. Trump supporters just circulated a video showing Trump shooting all manner of high-profile media people, and a former president, and Rosie O'Donnell, an entertainer, and various people with media organization names on replacing their heads. So Trump shot someone with the word CNN or MSNBC or Breitbart. They excluded Breitbart from being targeted, and Fox News. Can you believe it? But yes, they even depicted Trump snapping the neck of Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney has dared to speak out against Trump's unprincipled behavior in extorting Ukraine, in using the might of the American people, the American system of government, the $391 million of military funds earmarked for Ukraine to aid them in defending themselves against Russia. Trump used that to extort Ukraine, to incite them to undermine his political opponents, to make them produce a deliverable, that is to say, a statement, oh, yep, sure, we'll investigate Joe Biden. They didn't even have to conclude anything or produce any evidence. Trump just wanted them to announce an investigation, knowing that that would trigger people to going, well, maybe there's no smoke without fire, so maybe Joe Biden's guilty of something, maybe Hunter Biden's guilty of something, just to erode political support for his chief, most likely political opponent after the primaries. And Trump openly tried to then say, yep, it wasn't a crime because, look, I'm prepared to commit the crime again openly in public. And I wouldn't do that if it was a crime, would I? Well, yes, you would, because that's your modus operandi, to boast about how you are so beloved by your supporters, your crazed, delusional, racist supporters, that I was temporarily kicked off the platform, and I don't know why. Glitch in the matrix, perhaps just a technical error. Or maybe YouTube pulled it, I don't know. Oh, it says 4 people are watching. Well, thank you, I do appreciate that. If you're able to even share the link, actually you probably aren't unless you have multiple devices. I know I'm spoiled, I have a phone and an iPad. So I was saying that Trump supporters are a national security threat because they're intent on propping someone in power who sacrifices American national security interests to enrich himself and to return favors to tyrants whom he is beholden to. So he's beholden to Putin. That was pretty obvious to a lot of people at Helsinki when Trump looked very defeated and Putin was proudly holding a list of demands in front of the media, one of which said Syria. So yes, Trump is working his way down Putin's to-do list, and it's not a list that benefits America. It's a list that undermines America's standing in the world. It's a list that undermines America's ability to have alliances, that undermines the ability of American allies to trust America going forwards, because Trump is very happy to have abandoned his allies, or the allies of the American military, to mass slaughter. 2 million Kurdish people are at risk of being executed by Turkish forces and Turkish paramilitary forces. And they are sharing clips of their brutality on the internet. They're beheading Kurdish fighters. They shot and stoned and raped a Kurdish political leader. And I've seen that footage quite a lot circulating on Twitter. It's very, well, I didn't click on the footage because of not wanting to distress myself. But I can see why some people say it's important to see it. I don't think I can, but I am from a background in which the world turned away to what was happening to Jewish people. They didn't want to look too closely at what was happening to Jews, and my great-grandparents were murdered as a consequence of the world's slow start to action against Hitler. Hitler was dismissed by many people as a clown, and that type of problem still continues today. People dismiss Trump and say, oh, well, how dare you suggest he's playing 4D chess? He's clearly a blithering idiot. He may be a blithering idiot with dementia, with all types of educational deficits, etc. But he has decades of practice in being a criminal and sabotaging his critics and selling people out and betraying people. So he can do that even cognitively impaired. Trump can betray. Trump can sabotage. Trump can blackmail. Trump can extort. That comes as naturally as riding a bicycle to him because he's done it for so long. Money laundering, betrayal, rape, concealment of rape, intimidating witnesses, intimidating journalists. It's not difficult for him to do it when he has such an established history of doing exactly that. If you want to read a good history of Trump's past, of making journalists bend to his will and inadequately report on his misdeeds, you can look at an article by Jonathan Greenberg? I'll have to look it up. The article was called Saving Face. Washington Post. Jonathan. All right, so I'm Googling that right now. How Donald Trump silenced the people who could expose his business failure. Headline, Saving Face. Jonathan Greenberg. Was I right? Did I say that? Yes, Jonathan Greenberg, published June the 14th in 2019, so this year. That's a very good article to read if you want to gain a better understanding of Trump's willingness to blackmail, extort, and manipulate the media. And those are the same tactics that are likely being used against the media now, which still acts to protect Americans from the unvarnished truth about Trump. Although more of it is filtering through, and people in the media are becoming more willing to take Trump on as he appears to be leaking, as he appears to be losing. So Chuck Todd, who typically supports Republicans and claims to be balanced whilst overly attacking Democrats and overly ignoring the crimes and misconduct of Republican leaders, he has been taking quite a fervent stand against the lies put forward by Trump supporters on air. So that's a positive development, because when people in the media start to abandon Trump or start to abandon their practice of glossing over Trump's crimes, it indicates a change in the weather. It indicates that some people at least perceive that his power is waning, because those people typically gravitate towards power. They want to be on the side of somebody who has the most power. So for those people to perceive that Trump might be losing enough to start being more vocal in their opposition to Trump's crimes, then that's a good sign, and we should look at those good signs, because we need to hearten ourselves, we need to keep our spirits up, and we need to keep a firm resolve to continue to oppose Trump. If we don't, the consequences for us are that anybody who has opposed Trump, who has been vocal in criticism of him and has supported Democratic candidates, are likely to be a target of any type of mass conflict that the Republicans bring to bear on your society. The Australian government is trying to crack down on protests, the ability to demonstrate in public with mass protest that the trajectory of government is bad, that they are building more coal mines, granting leases to coal mining magnates who spent $60 million in the most recent Australian election to run as a third-party Jill Stein-style candidate in order to cause the progressive opposition party to lose and the more conservative Trump-light political party to win. They are causing there to be thousands upon thousands of fish die in Australian rivers. They are undermining policies that sought to limit the amount of carbon dioxide gases that Australians released into the air, that Australian companies released, or the coal that Australian companies exported for other people to release carbon gases as well. So it's becoming harder to protest against the misconduct of the Australian government, and they're causing a recession and continue to escalate the recession by suppressing wage growth, by suppressing union activity, which helps increase worker power and worker demands for wages that keep pace with inflation. They've ended penalty rates for various marginally paid workers, such as workers in the hospitality industry. So those people now don't get extra pay if they work on Sundays or if they work on public holidays. All of which decreases the amount of disposable income available to a significant portion of the Australian public, which decreases expenditure, which decreases economic activity through business. I mean, consumer spending is a large part of any given economy. So when Conservatives get into power and grant too many favours to their friends in business, to their friends who are corporate owners or mining magnates, etc., not only does our air quality suffer, not only does our water quality suffer, not only do we begin to cook at a planetary level, but we also experience economic recession, and people lose their jobs and people lose their homes, and then even less people spend money. The consumer confidence bubble becomes pricked and things go to pot even faster. All right, I had best go. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you endorse what I'm doing, trying to circulate more information and more analysis of Conservative governments and the harm that they are inflicting on our societies, on individuals, and their capacity to inflict further harm if we don't act emphatically to denounce them and to support people who are in the position to oppose them. If we don't act to support whistleblowers, if we don't act to ask media outlets to report truthfully and not to entertain an overly balanced presentation of facts, which gives equal weight to liars as it does to demonstrable liars, as it does to people who are at least attempting to be truthful. If we don't hold the media to account, if we don't let other citizens know that it is indecent and a betrayal and imprudent what Trump has done and will continue to do, if we don't do that en masse, then we will experience increasing fascism, increasing tyranny, in which we all suffer and our families suffer. And as little as 3.5% of any given population has been shown to be able to overturn tyrannical rule if they mass protest in a non-violent way. So people aren't aware of the power inherent in the population, in a population that has enough understanding of truth to know that it's bad when a bad actor such as Trump perverts American strategic policies, American national policies and domestic policies and foreign policy into pursuing aims that are contradictory to the interests of the American people. That's, yes, not only enrich Donald Trump, but actively endanger American troops and American people and world stability as well. Putin is using Trump to help overturn the world order, to make Russia the loose cannon, Hitler-style country acquiring Putin to become more powerful, to undermine America's status as a world power and enhance Russia's status as a global superpower. It wasn't really a global superpower, but if nobody can stop Putin from pursuing aggressive militaristic expansionism, then yes, Russia does become a global superpower with lots of nuclear weapons, and we are all in considerable danger as a consequence. Thank you for listening. If you wish to support my work, I have a website that you can go to, and it's davcat43.com. Easy peasy, DAVKAT43.com. And I have my very first blog post up. If you click on the right top side where it says blog posts, you'll be able to read that. And thank you. thank you in advance for any support and encouragement you wish to share with me. Thanks. Bye. Oh, wrong button.